The robots are coming, the robots are coming. But what if I told you the scariest truth most truck drivers are ignoring isn't autonomous trucks at all? No, it's something much more sinister. And once I show it to you, you might realize you've been ignoring it too. I'm not just here to scare you. I'm going to give you the solution I discovered after 10 years behind the wheel as a CDLA truck driver. In this video, I'm going to expose the trucking industry, expose some uncomfortable truths about money, why some drivers stack it up, while most are stuck, broke, and burnt out. I'm even going to expose something about you, and I don't even know you. But psychology is psychology. And truck driver or not, we all fall into the same traps, so buckle up. This is going to be a long haul ride, and I hope you've got hours on the clock because we've got a lot to unpack. By the end of this video, my goal is simple. You'll know the exact next steps to take to bring more money into your life, buy back your time, and finally live on your terms, doing what you want, with who you want, whenever you want. Okay, so here is something very important that I have to cover. Let me set the tone for how this video's made because it's probably different from what you're used to. As a driver myself, I spend most of my time on the road, and the way I consume YouTube is audio first. I pay for YouTube Premium so I can play videos in the background while going and following GPS. No ads, no distractions, just learning while I roll. So this video is podcast style. That means after the intro, you'll mostly hear my voice with light visuals or simple text on screen. I only go heavy on the editing in the first minute or two, just for fun. The rest, it's built for drivers who are listening while driving, just like I do. But here's the part you'll appreciate. Anytime there's something you really need to look at, I'll tell you. I'll also timestamp it in the description. That way, if you're driving, you don't have to look right away. You can finish your route, pull over, then come back and go straight to the part where it says, eyeballs on screen, look at this. It's content made for truckers by a trucker, built to respect your attention, your schedule, and your safety. Quick tip, listen at 2 times speed. Last thing, I'm building a community of drivers who deeply care about their finances. If you would like to be part of that community, we're accepting applications. The link is in the description. You must be a CDL driver. Let's get into the video. First off, let's address the robots in the room. I'm here to tell you, the robots are coming, and I mean that. Truck drivers are facing an existential threat. It's already challenging to make money as a driver, right? But guess what? It's going to get much tougher. Salary is going to dwindle down to zero. We are at full speed ahead on a dead-end highway because at the very end of this highway are autonomous trucks, self-driving vehicles that can go from point A to point B. First, they'll do it with you to help you. Then they'll do it better than you. Finally, they'll do it without you. There are a bunch of truck drivers out there, old school guys who think, oh yeah, I'll be long gone by the time that gets here. And there are newer, naive drivers who think it's not their problem until it is. Here's the thing with technology. It moves slower than you expect and then faster than you imagine. I'm a millennial, born in '88. I remember a time where the relationship between a cassette tape and a pencil made perfect sense. If you show a 25-year-old today a picture of those two things together, they'll be confused. They don't even know what a cassette is. All they know is streaming. Just last week I was 25. I blinked twice. Now I'm pushing 40. Just last week I was on Windows 95. Now my iPhone opens my window blinds. That's how fast technology shifts. It creeps, then it leaps. Have you ever seen the story of the ant and the grasshopper? It's a beautiful story. Disney even made a full-blown animation about it, one of my favorites. The grasshopper is out there singing and dancing in the summer, trying to convince the ants, hey y'all, chill, enjoy the times, stop working so hard, let's party. The ants are like, nah bruh, winter's around the way. The grasshopper's like, it's a long ways off. The ants ignore him. They keep working non-stop all summer long, collecting and storing food. Then winter comes. The grasshopper's like, wait, what? He looks around. He's all alone. Where'd the ants go? he's cold, he's starving, he's got nothing. Meanwhile, the ants are warm, they're fed, they're safe inside, and that's when they party. The ants spot the grasshopper through a window freezing outside. Gracious as they are, they let him in, they help him. They did not have to. It was a happy ending, but the lesson is clear. You work when the working is good. Don't wait for the storm to start fixing your roof. You fix a leaky roof when the sun is shining. And for truck drivers, right now, the sun is shining. The time is now to make your moves. Don't be a grasshopper. Right now, you might be making the most money you've ever made. But that doesn't mean it's time to take a break or go on vacation. Because once the storm hits, it's too late. It's already hard enough to make money in this industry, especially as an owner-operator, lease operator, or independent driver. The costs are insane. If you're even in a position to make good money, good for you. Take full advantage. Company drivers, and I'm one of them, man. Company drivers are turning into minimum wage truck drivers. Can you believe there are folks making less than $20 an hour? That's ridiculous. Taking on all this risk, driving these miles across the country for pennies? That's crazy to me. These companies smile in your face like it's a good deal. No, it is not. They expect you to be grateful for the privilege. Let's be real. This job is high risk. The stakes are so high. Nowhere in my mind is it okay for a CDL truck driver to struggle above minimum wage. But it is happening. Even still, there are tech companies working overtime to replace us. They're investing billions to make sure a machine can do your job without complaining, without sleeping, without getting paid. Your new job title will not be truck driver. Your new title? Backup plan. You're just a human fail-safe, just there in case the truck messes up. Your wages falling. Your leverage gone. And this ties right back into the grasshopper and the ants. Some drivers, like the ants, see this looming threat coming, and we're being proactive. More on that later. We're doing the work now. We're stacking, we're planning, we're learning, we're building our exit plan out of trucking before the snow hits. That's why you should hit the link in the description and join us. Then there are the grasshoppers, thinking, I'll be retired before robots happens. Thinking, it's not going to affect me. Thinking, they're smart. But when it hits, like technology always does, it'll happen gradually and then all of a sudden. Just like bankruptcy. So here's the kicker. Before the robots even take over, many truck drivers are already being stifled by low pay. The threat is more than automation. It's the slow erosion of your income. If your income is high enough, you can survive almost anything. It's your foundation, the floor you stand on, the bridge that carries you over treacherous waters. But the truth is, many truck drivers have been quietly robbed of their worth by the industry, and they don't even realize it. Why? Because they have no way to measure their true value. This is why some drivers are broke and others straight up stack money. In this next segment, I'm going to give you 3 tools to gauge your worth as a driver so you can finally see how the system might be cheating you without you even knowing it. There are 3 gauges. Think of them as ratios. The 3 gauges are time for money, labor for money, risk for money. So before we get into these ratios, we first need to establish a baseline, a benchmark. If you do a quick Google search right now, you'll see that the CDL truck driver salaries average $65,000 a year. That means the average truck driver in the United States is making about $250 per day in a 5-day work week, 52 weeks per year. If you are making more than $250 a day, good on you. You're above average. If you are making less, that's something to pay attention to. But here's the twist most drivers miss. Not all money is good money. There is money that feels fair, and then there's money that robs you of your time, your energy, and your vitality. Some jobs out there you could not pay me enough to take because it costs more than what it pays. So this isn't just about a number. This isn't just about money. This is about measuring the true value of your time, your body, and the risk that you take on. So we established the baseline, which is our benchmark. If you don't have a benchmark, you'll think whatever you're experiencing is normal. You'll think a 14-hour day for $200 is okay. You'll think being exhausted, broke, and away from home is just part of the grind, which it isn't. Some of y'all come from warehouse jobs. Maybe you were making $12 an hour back then. So when you see a $250 day, you feel like you're winning. But compared to your peers, fellow drivers, compared to what you're risking and how long you're working, you're getting bamboozled. If you're working 10 hours a day and making $250 for that day, that's $25 an hour. But if you're in a constant fight with traffic working 14 hours for that same $250, now you're down to $17.85 per hour. If we compare that to a Costco cashier with full benefits making $18.50 per hour, they have no CDL, take no risk, no time away from home. Now we can see how you're not just underpaid, you're being undervalued. Now, let's get into the ratios. Time for money, the quiet heist. The trucking industry has successfully tricked drivers into chasing miles. Paid by the mile sounds fair until you realize it's a sneaky way to cap your income. Some loads take 3 hours, some loads take 10. But if both pay the same rate, guess who loses? You do. You're paired with warehouse workers who are all getting paid by the hour. They have no incentive to hurry up, none. But you only get paid by the assignment. So the slower they move, the more of your life they steal for free. I've sat at shippers for 10 hours waiting on a load. I was early, but they changed my appointment time last minute, blamed it on the system, and then said, "We'll pay you detention starting 2 hours after your scheduled appointment." Even with the detention pay, compensation was not enough compared to the time I wasted. Feel familiar? When you get paid by the assignment, the longer it takes, the less you make per hour. And if that assignment takes 14 hours, you're earning about $17 an hour according to our benchmark. Being off duty at a shipper or a close by truck stop waiting on a load is still robbery because you could be at home off duty. That's not trucking. That's theft. Paid by the load, paid by the mile is a sneaky way to not compensate you for your time. So time for money ratio is a very important consideration. If you're paid by the mile, here's what I want you to do. Pull up your DOT clock for the time period you were paid, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly. Then take your gross pay and divide it by your total on-duty time. That number gives you your true hourly wage. Let's break it down. If you made $1,200 last week and your total on-duty time was 52 hours, you earned about $23 an hour. That is $2 below our benchmark. If you made the same $1,200 but only worked 36 hours, now you're making $33 an hour. That is above our benchmark. See the difference? The pay stays the same, but the amount of time it took you to earn it, that's what changes the value of your time. And this is important. Your DOT clock is regulated. It's the truth teller. You can't fudge those hours. That's why it's the best tool for seeing what you're actually earning per hour. Also consider the times when you go off duty to preserve your clock. You're not driving, but you're still babysitting a load. That counts too. Our benchmark, $25 an hour, this is the floor. If you're constantly falling below after doing this math, you're being shortchanged, period. And here's something else most drivers don't think about. In other industries, people get paid by the hour, and after 40 hours, they start earning overtime. If someone else is working 52 hours a week, their pay starts to spike after the 40-hour mark. But for us, we could work 52 hours and still walk away with the same $1,200, and that's it. So if your loads take a long time, or if you're stuck waiting, or if you have to drive long distance back after every run, and you're averaging 50 plus hours a week just to earn $1,200 or less, you got a time for money problem. There are other drivers, believe it or not, that are working fewer hours than you and making more money. doing the same thing. That means your time for money ratio is off. Let me give you an example from my own life. So it looks like somebody rolled the truck. Dang. At one job, I was working Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to about 4 p.m., about 11 hours a day, 55 hours a week. And I was getting paid about $1,100 a week for that schedule. This is gross pay, not take-home pay. Now, compare that to my current job. I'm working about 48 hours per week, but in only 3.5 days for that week. And I'm pulling in around $1,300 gross pay. Not only am I working fewer days, less hours, but I'm also getting paid more. That's a better time for money ratio. And it's not just about the hours you're on the road, it's about your freedom too. In that old job, 5 days a week were gone. The new job, I'm home 3.5 days a week. It feels like a miniature vacation. I've got time off the clock and still making more money than I did before. I wasn't at that other job very long. But here, stuck in traffic. Right here, in traffic, accident traffic. I've got to sit here until they clear up this 2-lane highway that a rig flipped over in. Once they clear up that rig, we will be able to move and proceed. Hopefully they do it soon. But if it takes a few hours, I'll be stuck here for a few hours, burning a hole in my clock. If I was paid by the load and not by the hour, which in this case I'm paid by the hour, my average hourly rate would go down. My average hourly rate would go down. But thankfully, I took control of my career and I pursued trucking companies that not only paid me by the hour, but paid me adequately within the hour, so that when I'm in a situation like this, I'm well above the benchmark. So when you're looking at your income, don't just ask, how much did I get paid? Ask, how long did it take me to earn this? When was I home? How much freedom did I actually have? Because the truth is, time is more valuable than money. But if your job is wasting both, it's time to reevaluate. Risk for money ratio. Now let's talk about risk. Because trucking ain't flipping burgers. You're not pushing paper. You're driving 80,000 pounds of steel at 70 miles an hour. You risk your life. You risk the lives of others. You risk your freedom every time you get behind the wheel. In trucking, you could do everything right and still end up in handcuffs, or worse, unalive. So why would anyone settle for payment as if they're stocking shelves? They don't know any better, that's why. They don't have a proper benchmark to measure against. I used to haul scrap metal. I delivered to dumps, waste yards, landfills, places full of chemicals, fumes, rot, radiation. I'd blow my nose after a shift and black dirt would come out. This type of risk is outside of the nature of trucking. I was inhaling filth, stepping over nails, rusted steel, glass. Some workers develop cancer. For what? $20 an hour? No way. No thanks. No amount of money is worth that. But there are drivers right now accepting these unhealthy working conditions for less than our benchmark. Is the risk worth the rate? Most of the time, it's not. And nobody's going to tell you except for another driver who's already lived it. Some drivers out here are hauling livestock, cattle, pigs, chickens, and if you've ever driven behind one of these trailers, you already know the smell hits you before you even see them. They're inhaling that stench all day, breathing in dust, ammonia, fecal matter. I can only imagine what the cab smells like after a full shift. To the drivers doing that work, all due respect. You have my utmost admiration. I genuinely hope you're being fairly compensated for what you're putting up with, because you're not just moving freight. You're hauling living, breathing animals and all the waste that comes with that. Personally, that's a line I won't cross. I don't want to come home smelling like a trash can, reeking of manure, and then trying to hug and kiss my wife. If I were to do a job like that, the pay would need to be way up because that's beyond regular trucking. That's extreme conditions. And this brings me to the bigger point about risk in trucking. Trucking is already risky, but what most people don't think about is that certain types of freight carry even more risk on top of that. Hauling hazmat, that's risk. Hauling water in a tanker, even that slosh factor adds a layer of danger. Hauling live animals, that's biological, physical, and emotional stress combined. But here's the question every driver should be asking. Does my pay reflect the additional risk I'm taking on? I served 8 honorable years in the United States Marine Corps. And in the military, if you're stationed in a hazardous environment, like a combat zone, your pay gets a bump. It's called hazard pay. The government recognizes the danger and compensates you accordingly. So why is it that in trucking, when a company sends you into a high-risk situation, they often don't adjust your pay at all? They just treat it like another load. That's not right. If I'm stepping into a high-risk environment, whether it's chemical, biological, or even just plain disgusting, I expect to be paid like I'm doing more than the average driver, because I am. Labor for money ratio. Now, let's talk about labor. Back-breaking ain't a badge. There's no-touch freight, there's drop and hook. That's the good stuff. But there's also the other side of trucking, like food service delivery, relocation service delivery. These are more so moving jobs, thinly veiled as driving jobs. These are the type of jobs where you are hand unloading freight. I've seen drivers doing 30,000 steps in a day, sweating, climbing, lifting, no ramps, no forklifts, no help. $400 a day sounds good until you're breaking your back to get it. If you get injured, that's time away from work and money out of your pocket. You might feel like you're making real money, but inside of 2 years, your knees are shot, your back tender, your body aged. You at this point is an athlete except without the fame, the salary, and sponsorships. Now, the other thing about labor, specifically the labor involved in driving. On the surface, driving doesn't seem labor intensive. I mean, you're just sitting there, right? But anybody who's ever run hard, like doing 10, 11-hour days behind the wheel and then stretching it out for another 3 hours on duty to maximize your 14-hour clock, you know that feeling. It doesn't look like you're doing anything, but your body feels it. My father-in-law jokes about this all the time. Whenever we FaceTime during a family function, when I can't be there because I'm working, he looks at the screen and says, "Man, it looks like you're just sitting on a sofa with a seatbelt on." And it's funny, but also kind of true. Even though it looks like I'm just sitting, my body's stuck in the same cramped position for hours. I can't stretch, I can't move. It takes a toll. That's why, to me, that's labor. Especially now that I'm in a day cab, I can't stand up, I can't lay down. So when I get stuck at a shipper for hours and it's pouring rain outside and they won't let me inside their building, I'm just trapped. Sitting in that tight little cab, my body gets no relief, no stretch, no comfort. That's labor. Now, if you're in a sleeper, maybe it's different. You can stand up, you can move around, lay down, stretch out. You might be able to tolerate long waits better than I can in this day cab, but that's something to consider because labor isn't just physical exertion. It's also about how your body feels at the end of your shift. Ask yourself, are you sore? Are you stiff? Are you wiped out even though it seems like you did nothing? That's labor. It's not just about lifting couches or dragging freight by hand. It's also about how your body feels. Try not to damage it too bad. I know a driver who installs cell phone towers and electrical lines. He's over the road. He gets paid well, like $120,000 plus a year well. But that job, that's basically an electrical engineer disguised as a trucking job. He's got a CDL, yeah, so they call it a driving job, but the reality is he's climbing towers, handling live wires, dealing with high voltage systems. The labor is real, the risk extreme, and the time away from home, brutal. So yeah, his money to time ratio is solid, but the enjoyment of that money, non-existent. The labor and the risk to money ratio is questionable because one wrong move and he's dead. So when I think about labor, I'm not just thinking about what the job looks like. I'm thinking about what will it do to my body? What do I have to put up with? And does the pay account for these factors? Because if the company is paying you like you're just sitting on a sofa, but your body's breaking down like you've been carrying buckets of bricks, you're being undervalued. Period. So here's the thing. If you realize your pay to time, pay to risk, and pay to labor ratios are out of whack, and you feel like you're getting screwed over, here's what to do next. You need to start putting in job applications. Even if you're not actively looking, you should always be applying. That's the mindset. Always be applying. By the way, quick reminder, link in the description. Apply to join our driver community. It's not a job. It's a support group of drivers who want more than miles. So yeah, apply, hit the link in the description, and also always be applying to real jobs, other jobs, because if you wait until you need a job, it'll get expensive fast. Transitioning between trucking jobs costs money, and the timing almost never lines up. Every driver may have experienced this feeling. The moment you quit, whether it was planned or all of a sudden, no new jobs call you. It's dead quiet. But the second you finally find a new job, sign that offer, or show up to orientation, boom. Your phone blows up. All the jobs you applied to in the past but forgot about start calling and making offers. Now everybody wants you. One company calls, then another, then a third. It's like they're all in a secret group chat or something. That's why you've always got to be planting seeds, because the best opportunities usually show up when you're not looking. Don't get complacent. If you're just sitting in a job because it's comfortable, you might be missing out on something way better. Better money, better schedule, better quality of life. But if you're not looking, you'll never know. And that kind of missed opportunity, that's too costly. So while you're working your current job, keep entertaining new offers, but don't just jump at any offer. Measure them using the tools I've provided you. Time for money, risk for money, labor for money. That's your gauge. That's your compass. Go for at least $25 an hour, nothing less. Now, when you apply online for trucking jobs, you're going to get inundated with recruiter spam. Janky promoters who will promise you highways with infinite miles but deliver a parking lot. Don't fall for it. These recruiters don't care about your well-being. Most of them just want a referral bonus. As soon as you work a couple of weeks, they get paid, and that's the end of their concern for you. They'll tell you anything to get you in the door, even if they know the company can't deliver on those promises. So here's the route I took, and it worked. I use what I call the get out and look method. Whenever I was out on the road, I made it a point to read the name of every trucking company I saw on trailers and tractors. If a company had trucks on the road, that meant they were paying their drivers at least something. And while I was driving, I'd leave myself voice notes. Just say the company name and keep it moving. Later, I'll compile a giant list. Then, when I was off, I'd hit up the industrial parks in my area. I knew where all the warehouses were. I'd go park and I'd just watch trucks come in and out, writing down every company name I saw. I'd also go sit at the truck stop for a couple of hours and do the same thing. If I wanted a local home daily job, I'd specifically look at the day cabs and record only those names. If I were open to like straight truck gigs, I'd look at those rigs and record their companies too. After a couple of days of doing this, you'll have a massive list of real local trucking companies or over-the-road trucking companies. From there, go directly to their website, call them directly. That's how you avoid all the junky recruiters and get real info about what they're offering. The recruiters will lie about everything. They'll promise you more miles than you'll ever actually run. They'll promise schedules and home time that never materialize. They'll paint a fantasy and hope you don't ask too many questions. By going direct, you take control. And now you've got the tools. Also, make sure to clarify if it's a W-2 or 1099 gig. I've had people try to trick me into doing a 1099 but presenting it as if it's a W-2. So be careful with that. So yeah, you've got the tools. You know how to measure your worth using real ratios. You know how to spot when you're being undervalued, underpaid. And now You know how to find better opportunities without being spammed by fake promises. It's going to take work. It's not a quick fix, but if you don't put in the work, you'll stay stuck exactly where you are. And if you're afraid of doing the work, afraid of looking, applying, measuring, then yeah, you're going to remain in the same place year after year, miserable and underpaid. But if you take this information and actually act on it, you can change your life literally today. You can start measuring your value and making real moves. You can compare what you're getting paid to what others are getting paid and use that to take your next step. And now, before I move into the next segment, I just want to say this. I know this whole video so far has been exposing some of the ugly truths about the trucking industry. I don't want it to sound like I'm bitter or trying to bash the industry, because the truth is, trucking saved my life. There's a lot of good in this industry, a lot of beauty, and in the next part, I'm going to talk about that, because for me, trucking didn't just give me a job, it gave me a path forward when I didn't have one. It gave me a chance when nothing else did. It made me who I am today. Let's get into that. Trucking saved my life. I used to get walked to the corner office at the bank like I was royalty. Relationship manager, firm handshake, first name basis. A few years later, they were charging me overdraft fees for having overdraft fees. The IRS froze my accounts. My credit cards were locked. My girlfriend cheated, then left me. No job, no car, no place to sleep. I had nothing left but debt and regret. Then I became a truck driver. Trucking became the reset button for all my failures. All I had was miles, silence, and the time to face myself in that driver's seat. I'm going to share my story, but this ain't some motivational gimmick. This is a survival manual. I lost everything by 26, my money, my real estate, my businesses, my pride, but I rebuilt from the ground up with nothing but a duffel bag, an 18-wheeler, and the GI Bill. This is for any driver, any vet, any man who feels like life ran him off the road. I'm not here to hype you up. I'm here to hand you the blueprint. How to cut the noise, control your risk, rebuild your life, and make money without driving yourself into the ground. You don't need a mansion. You need clarity, and that starts right here. There are 3 key lessons I want you to keep in mind as you listen. Failure is not final. Simplicity is key. Break routine. At the end of my story, I'm going to circle back to these 3 lessons and show you how to use them to take back control of your life. The free fall. How I lost it all. I was 26 years old and I lost everything. But let me take you back. I saw the movie Trading Places when I was really young. Too young to understand what was actually going on. All I knew was these guys wore suits, made money, looked important, and Eddie Murphy went from rags to riches. In my head, I thought they were lawyers. That was my childish way of making sense of it. But then came the dot-com boom. Around 13 years old, I started hearing about dot-com millionaires, the bomb.com, people getting rich off of websites, internet stocks, tech plays, basically businesses with .com in their name made money. At some point during this time, I rewatched the movie Trading Places again, and that's when the light bulb went off. That's when I connected the dots and realized, oh, these guys in Trading Places weren't lawyers. They were stockbrokers. They were dealing with the market. That's when my obsession with the stock market really began. At that time, I was only old enough to be aware. I was not old enough to understand it, but it kept my attention, and when I was old enough to act, I did. By 16, I opened up my first E-Trade account. My first stock was eBay. I was deep into all e-companies, eBay, E-Trade, anything electronic, anything .com, anything tech. Then I joined the United States Marine Corps right out of high school. Deployed to Iraq, and while I was over there, the next boom and bust cycle hit, the 2008 financial crisis. The stock market crashed. This time, I wasn't just aware, I was old enough to understand, and I was old enough to participate. With money saved from my deployment and $30,000 borrowed from my dad, I went to work buying stock. Every stock was dirt cheap. I bought anything and everything that was once popular, but now cheap. And within a year, the market rebounded hard. I made a lot of money. By the time I was 21, I had more money than I should have at that age. My ego went through the roof. I thought I was unstoppable. I literally thought I'd be a billionaire by 26. When you're young and dumb and you believe you figured it all out, you start taking reckless risks. I didn't want to just buy and sell stocks anymore. I wanted to be the stock. I wanted my own company on the market. I got inspired by Zuckerberg, Elon, Steve Jobs, all the entrepreneurs. I told myself, if I want to be a billionaire, I've got to build a tech company. So that's what I tried to do. I started chasing business ideas. Startups, tech ventures, every one of them failed. Meanwhile, I used the leftovers from my stock profits to buy up real estate, cheap foreclosures, and rented them out to military personnel. I thought I was being smart. I wasn't. I purchased foreclosures and would soon lose all my properties to foreclosure. I spread myself too thin between too many ventures, not allowing any one of them to fully mature before I moved on to the next. Being impatient and reckless cost me. When the going was good, I had it in my mind that I would leave the military. When things started falling apart, I thought if I just had more time, I would be able to fix my problems. I completed my 8 years and did not renew my contract. Big mistake. I was dysfunctional. The military wasn't getting in the way of my dreams. I was. I really enjoyed being in the Marine Corps, but you don't know what you got till it's gone. By the time I was 26, no military, no job, no real estate, no business, no backup. Credit cards frozen, couldn't pay for anything. All the sticky pennies in my car, gone. I used them to eat. Then I sold my car for food. I'm talking Vienna sausages and sriracha just to survive. Everything collapsed, and it was all my fault based on the foolish decisions I made. The reset button. After I lost everything, I was stuck. I had nothing. Not just broke, buried. When you go through something like that, when you lose it all, you don't just lose money, you lose belief. That was me. I was utterly depressed. Before this moment, I could never rationalize why anyone would want to go to sleep and never wake up. But where I was in my life, that emotion was deep. The only thing I had left was the GI Bill, and thank God for it. I used it to pay for trucking school, and that decision, that's what saved my life. I became a truck driver, and trucking became the reset button for all my failures. I was over the road. I didn't have a car anymore. I didn't have to pay rent or a mortgage. I lived on the truck. And that one shift, that cut in expenses, is what gave me the space to breathe again. My only bill was my cell phone. I didn't try to save. I was just afraid to spend. And so, savings happened to me. After a few years, I looked up and had more money than month. I was living out of a duffel bag, just the bare minimum. Showering at truck stops, no fancy clothes, no distractions. Material possessions became virtually worthless to me. And that's when I understood simplicity is key. I didn't hustle harder to get out of my situation. I just simplified my life. I would like to say I got rid of everything, but the reality is everything got stripped from me. Having less things allowed me to receive more freedom. Living on that truck made me frugal. Not having bills piled up my income to pay off my debts. This created the freedom I desperately sought after. Simplicity is key. If your life is cluttered, simplify. The healing. While I was over the road, something interesting happened. I was alone for hours, sometimes days. I started to think deeper than normal. I was introspective, not just about money, but about everything. I was still depressed, still broke at the time, still recovering. I have gray hairs in my head, had them even before the age of 30. That's how much stress I was carrying. I thought I'd be homeless forever. No home, no assets, no one checking for me. I was thankful that trucking gave me more than just a paycheck. It gave me the space. And that space turned into healing. See, when you're stressed out, really stressed, your whole body tightens up. Your shoulders, your back, you carry tension everywhere. You don't even know it. You think you need a massage therapist to work it out, but sometimes what you really need is a view. I remember one time I bent a curve. I don't remember exactly where. Might have been Donner's Pass in California. Winter was over, and man, I saw over the side of a mountain and it was beautiful, so peaceful. It hit me in a way I did not expect. The muscles in my face relaxed. I didn't even know I'd been frowning, but the tension just unraveled like a flower opening up in spring. That's what it felt like. That view was more than just a scenery. It was therapy. It was a mental massage. And I had never felt that before. The road, this silence, this country, it's healing me, slowly but surely. Most people are stuck in an office, forced to stare out a tiny window with barely any sunlight. Trucking allowed me the freedom to travel and change my scenery on a consistent basis. As human beings, we store trauma in physical places through memories. If you've ever had a car crash, you remember the exact spot it happened. That's why people leave flowers on the side of the road where someone they love was taken, because that location is trauma. What I'm saying is this: where something happened can be just as damaging as what happened. If you feel cooped up, you've got to break out, change your environment, break the routine. Routine is what keeps people stuck. And nothing is more routine than visiting the same places every day, waking up in the same room, clocking in at the same job, driving down the same streets, running into the same people. It drains you. I hated the city where I had lost everything because the memories there were too painful. I stored trauma at that physical location. It killed me to walk by houses that used to be mine and now belong to someone else. I cringed driving by my old business office. I felt shame running into people who knew how bad I had failed, because my failure wasn't private, it was very public. But trucking helped me escape that city. It gave me distance. It let me see the country. It helped me break out of the routine of location, and I'm better for it. The constant change of scenery, it's done wonders for my mental health. And this is what I mean when I say break routine. So here we are. I told you at the start, this ain't motivational gimmick. This was my story, my survival manual. I was 26 years old and I lost everything. Not just money, not just property. I lost belief in myself. But I'm standing here now to tell you, failure is not final. It feels final when you're in it. When you're sleeping on someone's couch, selling your car to eat, you start thinking, this is it. This is who I am now. But it is not it, because here's the truth. Everything I lost it because of the decisions I made. And everything I rebuilt it because I made different set of decisions. Choice shape shifts destiny. The choices you make determines the circumstances you experience. That's the part most people miss. You caused it, which means you can change it. That's what I did. I simplified. I broke the routine. I gave myself space to breathe, and I started again. And now I'm better for it, stronger, clearer, and far more dangerous than the version of me that thought he was invincible at 21. So let me circle back, just like I promised, and leave you with 3 lessons that carried me through the darkest times in my life. Failure is not final. You can fail, lose everything, and still rebuild if you're willing to face yourself. Simplicity is key. You don't need more money. You need less bills, fewer distractions, less noise, more clarity. Break the routine. Get out of the same environments that remind you of who you used to be. Change your scene, and you just might change your story. If my story spoke to you, not just as inspiration, but as a blueprint, then hold on to these 3 things, because no matter how far gone it feels, you can come back. Not as the same person, but as a stronger one. You've made it this far into the video, so I think now's the right time to properly introduce myself. My name is Jeff. I'm the host of Truckers Who Trade, the community I'm building for drivers who deeply care about their finances. But don't think of me as a guru or a coach. Sure, I may sometimes fill that role when I'm teaching or sharing what I've learned, but really, I'd like for you to think of me as a fellow driver, fellow trader, fellow investor. Maybe I'm just a few mile markers ahead of you, and I'm hopping on the CB radio to say, hey, at mile marker such and such, there's a sofa in the far right lane. Then another driver chimes in, yeah, I'm southbound and just passed it. Sofa's still there. We do this so that all the drivers headed northbound know to get over. Imagine that kind of network, that kind of community of drivers helping drivers. Except instead of just helping each other over the road, we're helping each other in the stock market, sharing information, sharing knowledge, bringing that same level of camaraderie to our financial lives. That's my vision. And if you share that vision, I invite you to join our community. Let me tell you a quick story. One time I was at a shipper up in New York. It was tight. New York wasn't built for 18-wheelers. It's been around since the founding of America. Maneuvering these massive machines in that city is no joke. I don't remember exactly where I was. All I remember is that I had a hard time finding the shipper. So much so that I had to hop out the truck, boots on the ground, and go walk around. There was this alley I was afraid to drive down. I didn't know if I could get back out. I didn't want to risk getting stuck. It could cost me hours or worse, a citation. So I walked. I kid you not. I'm confused, looking around, people all around, but nobody knew a thing. Then someone walks straight up to me and says, hey, you trying to find shipper so-and-so? I lit up. Yes! He goes, it's right over there, but wait, don't just drive straight. You've got to go around, hug the right side of the street before you hit the corner, or you'll never make that hard left. He literally gave me step-by-step instructions to get to the shipper. I was overwhelmed with gratitude. I asked him, how did you know? He just smiled and pointed back at his truck. From where it was parked, I couldn't really see it, but he had seen me hop out of my truck. He got out of his and came over to help me when he didn't have to. Had he not made his presence known, I would have never known he was even there. That gesture stuck with me. He didn't ask for anything. He helped for the sake of helping. The only way I could repay him was to pay it forward, help another driver when they needed it. Not all drivers share that kind of camaraderie, but the ones who do understand. That's what I want to capture and replicate inside Truckers Who Trade. Drivers openly discussing their perspective on the market, sharing wins, sharing losses, sharing lessons, and lifting each other up. It's a private community, carefully filtered for driver traders, driver investors only. No bots, no scammers, no spam. Just raw, genuine drivers who care about their finances and are actively working to grow their wealth. So if you fit that mold, scroll down to the description and apply to join the Truckers Who Trade community. Because if you've ever helped another driver or been helped, you already get it. And if that resonates with you, we'd love to have you. For years, I viewed trucking through rose-colored glasses until one day, those glasses cracked. And once they cracked, they shattered completely. What I'm about to share is the most horrifying truth about trucking that many drivers are ignoring. A truth that could cost you everything when you least expect it. I need you to really listen because what I'm about to share could completely change how you think about your career and financial security. Years ago, I was at the DMV contemplating whether to keep my tanker and hazmat endorsements. I wasn't using them at my current job and didn't see the point in paying extra to keep them. While waiting, an older gentleman sat next to me and struck up a conversation. In talking, I realized he had a Class A CDL. He was there specifically to renew his, even though he no longer drove trucks. I was like, wait a minute. Why are you renewing your license and you already changed careers? When I asked him that question, his expression changed. He took on a fatherly tone and said something that shook me to the core. Son, a CDL is a license to work. It was like a church bell rung inside of my ears when he said that. Those words resonated deeply within me. They echoed in my mind, vibrated in my soul, because in that moment I realized he was absolutely right. My CDL had been my lifeline when I hit rock bottom, when I failed at everything, when I was broke, homeless. My CDL was the one thing that brought me back. It allowed me to work when no one else would hire me. As he put it, they always need drivers. No matter what city you're in, wherever you go, there will always be a need for drivers. I left the DMV that day with a renewed perspective. There I was about to drop my endorsements, and a complete stranger, not knowing what I was about to do, answered a question they didn't even know I was asking. Of course I kept my endorsements. This was my license to work. I was happy with trucking before, but now, for the first time, I put on rose-colored glasses. Little did I know, cracks would appear. Fast forward, I broke my right ankle living life in an accident totally unrelated to trucking. Doctor told me I needed screws, had to get surgery. The scheduling was quick and the surgery was a success. The healing is what took forever. After the operation, I was desperate to get back to work. Those short-term disability checks only cover about 50% of my income. And even though I had savings, the fear of blowing through them was real. I was afraid to spend, and without proper income, savings did not happen to me. I started to deplete my savings. For the first time after overcoming my past trauma, my past failures, I felt like I was financially backsliding. I was petrified of going broke again. I kept calling my trucking company multiple times a week. Hey, y'all still got my spot, right? Y'all didn't hire another driver to replace me, right? I need that route. That's a good route. Don't worry, I'll be back soon. Trust me. But I couldn't pass the DOT physical. My doctor would not release me. And for good reason. I wasn't ready, but I was trying to force it, which only created more injury and prolonged my healing. My doctor had to rattle me. I was getting antsy. She was like, hey, bruh, stop standing on your foot. You're making it worse. I will not release you if you're not making progress. When you go to rehab, do what they tell you to do. That was the first crack in my rose-colored glasses about the trucking industry. For the first time, I realized that my license to work had limitations, serious ones. No matter how much the people you work with like you, if you are unfit to drive, they will not permit you to drive. It's a business decision. It's not personal. Even if you own your own rig, there are forces beyond you that will prevent you from working. Once I finally got back to work after healing, I started noticing what I'd been ignoring before. Drivers who had been with the company for years were being forced out of trucking against their will. Some because their blood pressure was too high, others because of diabetes complications, sleep apnea disqualifications, even minor mistakes like traffic accidents. Another driver I knew, we'd gone through orientation together, ended up in the hospital for 6 weeks after rolling his truck. He can't get back into a rig now. His career is over. I was hurt hearing this, like, dang, bro. Bro got a family. All these things were always happening right in front of me, but I never truly observed them. I never let the reality sink in. It's kind of like your nose. You are always seeing your nose. It's always in your line of sight, whether you look up, down, left, right, but your brain chooses to ignore it. Your brain is very good at ignoring the obvious, and that's what this video is really about. The most sinister truth many truck drivers are ignoring. Trucking is not as secure as we believe it to be.
Yeah. Come on, come on. Come on. Thank you.
The entire route.
160.
2-lane highway. Driver's all right. Damn. We talked about autonomous trucks and the robots are coming for our jobs, but well before those robots get here, Something else could take you out of the driver's seat permanently. That license to work we all depend on, that CDL, has an expiration date that has nothing to do with the one printed on the card. You can't truck forever. All it takes is one bad day to totally dislodge your career. One citation, one accident, one missed DOT physical, one thing, and you're done. If robots don't get you, your age will get you. Your health will get you. An accident could get you. You could get you. Hey, were you the one driving?
Huh?
Were you the one driving?
Excuse me?
Is you?
No.
You okay?
Yeah, you're right.
Who's the driver? Is driver okay?
Yeah,
This is right.
Oh, you okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Come on.
We are at full speed ahead on the highway of a dead-end career. My rose-colored glasses have shattered. This reality hit me even harder when my wife and I found out we were expecting our first child. For the first time, I started thinking beyond myself. I started thinking about legacy, about leaving something behind for my son. I realized I had decent savings, but it was just sitting there being eaten away by inflation. And if I lost trucking, I'd lose everything. My legacy would be gone before it even started. I knew about the stock market. I experienced the opportunities it afforded me in the past. I stayed away from it all those years just watching from a distance. The thing with trauma is that those wounds remain tender, even after you heal. The markets was what got my journey started, but it was not what took me under. If I wanted to leave a legacy behind for my son like the rich do for their children, I needed to get back into the markets, and so I did. For many years, I never saw the stock market as the fallback plan, not until I was forced out of a job I actually liked, over a relay driver who kept screwing up my loads. My time-to-money ratio got flipped upside down. Yeah, the checks were decent, but I was missing moments with my newborn son, so I quit. No notice, just walked. And in that gap between jobs, something clicked. The stock market didn't just keep me afloat. I had some quick wins and some big wins. It held me down when trucking couldn't. It bought diapers. It covered bills. It gave me a shot. That's when it hit me. The stock market is the backup plan to every backup plan. Investor is the final form in every category. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, breaks this down perfectly with his Cashflow Quadrant. It's one of the most profound financial frameworks I've ever seen. There are 4 quadrants, E, S, B, and I. You might want to take a look at the screen. Each representing how people make money. E is for employee. That's your company driver. That's me. You earn money with a W-2. S is for self-employed. Think owner-operators. They're 1099 contractors. They don't own a business. They own a job. They're still doing the work. B is for business owner. These are the system builders. They hire employees and contractors to work their system. Companies like Swift, Werner, and Schneider. That's B quadrant. They feed the E's and the S's. I is for the investor. These are the people who use money to make money. They give loans. They buy ownership in businesses. They sell insurance. They don't just work. They multiply capital. Every single one of these people, whether they know it or not, touches the stock market. Employees and contractors have 401ks, pensions, savings, CDs, bank accounts. Business owners invest surplus capital. And investors, well, they are the market. All roads lead to the stock market. And the ones who prepare get to retire off their investments. The ones who don't, they work until they die. As for drivers, they truck until they can't, and they can't truck forever. That's why I study investing now. That's why I trade. Because if I ever lose the ability or permission to truck drive, I don't want to be scrambling. I want to be ready. Every time we lace up our boots and crank that engine, we risk everything. We could lose our CDL, our health, or worse. And it could happen when we least expect it. For most truck drivers who've been driving 30 plus years, this is all they know. They have no other skills. Many haven't saved or invested properly. What's your backup plan? Seriously, What are you going to do when trucking isn't enough? Trucking is good. It saved my life. But let's be honest, it's not great. If you manage to stay safe, stay healthy, and survive the grind, automation is still coming. Self-driving trucks will eventually replace the very seat you're in. They always need drivers. No matter what city you're in, wherever you go, there will always be a need for drivers. But that driver does not have to be a human. So what are you going to do? Are you going to be a grasshopper, ignoring the warning signs, living like the road never ends? Or are you going to think like the ants, storing up now while the sun is still shining? I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm stacking skills in the stock market. I'm buying and selling companies. I'm not gambling, I'm building. And I know I'm not the only one. There are other drivers out here just like me. Drivers who see what's coming. Drivers who refuse to be caught off guard. We know the stock market isn't easy. We know it's risky. It's just like trucking. But that's exactly why we come together inside the Truckers Who Trade community. When one of us gets confused, another taps and says, "Hey, you missed your exit. Let me point you in the right way." So go down to the link in the description and apply to join. We'll meet you on the other side. And in the next video, I'm going to show you something surprising. How trucking made me a better trader. The reason will shock you. Subscribe, safe travels, the market's a highway, know your exits, trade safe. Jeff.